Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kopijana Vallabha Girivara Tade Kopijana Vallabha Girivara Tade Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtadhara Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtadhara Shata Shri Srimad Ace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Do you think you could grab the book, please? So. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 18, The Residents of Jambudvipa Offer Prayers, Text 27. Yam Loka Palaha Kila Matsara Jvara Hidva Yatanto Pi Pritak Sametya Cha Patum Na Shekor Dvi padash chatush padaha sarishpritpam stanu yad atra drishyate yam lokapala kilamatsara jvara hitvaya tanto pit pratak sametyacha patum nashekor dvipadash chatushpada sarishpam stanu yaratra dishyate yam lokapala kilamatsara jvara hitvaya tanto pipratak sametyacha patum nashekor dvipadash chatushpada sarishpam stanu yat atra dishyate Sarisripam. I guess it's just missing in my pronunciation. What is it? Sarisripam? Okay, Ripam. Told Nrsingadev that, right? Someone told Nrsingadev that. Rip him to pieces. Rip Hiranyakashipu to pieces. Rip him. All right, rip him. Yam lokapala kilamatsara jvara hitvaya tanto pipratak sametyacha patum nashekor dipadash chatushpada sarisripam stanu yat atra dishyate Yam. Whom? You. Lokapalaha. The great leaders of the universe, beginning with Lord Brahma. Kila. What to speak of others? Matsadajaraha. Who are suffering from the fever of envy. Hitva. Leaving aside. Yatantaha. Endeavoring. Api. Although. Pritak. Separately. Sametya. Combined. Cha. Also. Patum. To protect. Na. Not. Shekuhu. Able. Dvipadaha. Two-legged. Chatupadaha. Four-legged. Sarisripam. Reptiles. Stanu. Not moving. Yat. Whatever. Atra. Within this material world. Drishyate is visible. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My Lord, from the great leaders of the universe, such as Lord Brahma and of the demigods, down to the political leaders of this world, all are envious of your authority. Without your help, however, they could neither separately nor concertedly maintain the innumerable living entities within the universe. You are actually the only maintainer of all human beings, of animals like cows and asses, and of plants, reptiles, birds, mountains, and whatever else is visible within this material world. Purport. It is fashionable for materialistic persons to compete with the power of God. When so-called scientists try to manufacture living entities in their laboratories, their only purpose is to defy the talent and ability of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called illusion. It exists even in the higher planetary systems, where great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and others reside. In this world, everyone is puffed up with false prestige, despite the failure of all his endeavors. When so-called philanthropists who supposedly want to help the poor are approached by members of the Krishna consciousness movement, they say, "You are simply wasting your time, while I am feeding vast masses of starving people." Unfortunately, their meager efforts, either singly or together, do not solve anyone's problems. Sometimes so-called swamis are very eager to feed poor people, thinking them to be Daridra Nārāyaṇa, the Lord's incarnations as beggars. They prefer to serve the manufactured Daridra Nārāyaṇa than the original spiritual Nārāyaṇa, the original Supreme Nārāyaṇa. They say, "Don't encourage service to Lord Nārāyaṇa. It is better to serve the starving people of the world." Unfortunately, such materialists either singly or combined in the form of the United Nations cannot fulfill their plans. The truth is that the many millions of human beings, animals, birds, and trees, indeed, all living entities, are maintained solely by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko bahūnāṁ yo vidadhāti kāmān. One person, the Supreme Lord, is supplying the necessities of life for all other living entities. To challenge the authority of Nārāyaṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the business of asuras, demons. Yet sometimes suras or devotees are also bewildered by the illusory energy and falsely claim to be the maintainer of the entire universe. Such incidents are described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Shukadeva Goswami tells how Lord Brahma and King Indra became puffed up and were eventually chastised by Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulaṇmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Gadimya Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinitaranam Vancha Kalpadarubhishta Kripasandibhavacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Translation again. My Lord, from the great leaders of the universe, such as Lord Brahma and other demigods, down to the political leaders of this world, all are envious of your authority. Without your help, however, they could neither separately nor concertedly maintain the innumerable living entities within the universe. You are actually the only maintainer of all human beings, of animals like cows and asses, and of plants, reptiles, birds, mountains, and whatever else is visible within this material world. In Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada summary study of the 10th canto. There's a chapter 27, Prayers by Indra, the King of Heaven, in which Indra is asking for forgiveness, glorifying Krishna in different ways after committing this terrible offense, atrocious offense of trying to kill all the residents of Vrindavan, including Krishna. So we could just read some of that and discuss. Thus praised by Indra, so we're starting off a little in the latter part of his praising Krishna and praying to Krishna. Thus praised by Indra, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, smiled beautifully, and then replied in a grave voice like a rumbling cloud. My dear Indra, I stopped your sacrifice just to show you my causeless mercy and to remind you that I am your eternal master. I am the master not only of you, but of all the demigods as well. You should always remember that all your material opulence are due to my mercy. No living entity can independently become opulent. One must be favored by my mercy. Everyone should always remember that I am the Supreme Lord. I can show anyone my favor, and I can chastise anyone because no one is superior to me. If I find someone overpowered by false pride, in order to show him my causeless mercy, I withdraw all his opulences. It is noteworthy that Krishna sometimes removes all of a rich man's opulences. In order to facilitate his becoming a soul surrendered to him. This is a special favor of the Lord's. Sometimes it is seen that a person is very opulent materially, but due to his devotional service to the Lord, he may be reduced to poverty. One should not think, however, that because he worshipped the Supreme Lord, he has become poverty-stricken. The real purport is that when a person is a pure devotee, but at the same time, by miscalculation, wants to lord it over material nature, the Lord shows his special mercy by taking away all material opulences, until at last he surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. So Srila Prabhupada would often tell the story of a yogi and a mouse. So the mouse was being harassed by a cat. So then the yogi, by his mystic power, said, "Okay, my dear mouse, and become a cat." So then the cat was becoming harassed by a dog. So then the yogi said, "Okay, my dear dog, and now become a tiger, right? Okay, through his mystic power, made him a tiger. So then, when the mouse, who became a cat, who became a dog, who became a tiger, at this point, the tiger started looking at the yogi. So, oh, okay, great. Now you're looking very nice for my lunch, right? I'm going to devour you. And you could see it in somebody's eyes, right? You could see a lot in somebody's eyes. But so the yogi, being very intelligent or just having common sense, was looking at this tiger and said, "This tiger wants to eat me." And he's probably licking his, like tigers, they lick their whatever lips or something. So then the yogi said, through his mystic power, okay, become a mouse. And he made him into a mouse. So this is demonstrating that by the, you could say, mercy or mystic power of this yogi, a particular mouse was made into a great tiger, right? But because the tiger wanted to misuse his power by killing the yogi, the person who made him a tiger, and then, okay, become a mouse again. So in other words, we may become very qualified in many ways. By Krishna's mercy to do so many different things in Krishna's service. Or also by the mercy of the spiritual master, when we be qualified in so many ways. But if we, at one particular point, want to do away with the spiritual master, more or less, do away with Krishna, more or less, then they say, okay, become a mouse. In other words, all the opulences are taken away from us. The power that we have to do the things we do in Krishna's service and the Guru's service is taken away and become a mouse. So what Srila Prabhupada's mentioning here in this particular in the section of the Krishna book is that a person who's a devotee, but sometimes Krishna may remove all their opulences, or he takes away things. Why? Not because Krishna's like sadistic or something. He likes to see people suffer, but he just wants to see the person happy. But knowing that that person's attached to particular things, Krishna takes them away. He creates a situation in which a person's pride is reduced. Just like Indra here, he reduced his pride, chastised him. So, after instructing Indra, Lord Krishna asked him to return to his kingdom and the heavenly planets and to remember always that he is never the supreme, but is always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also advised him to remain as king of heaven, but to be careful of false pride. So Indra wanted to kill. That was his desire. This out of all the Vaishnava aparads a person could do through their speech and different ways, right? Thinking ill of a Vaishnava, speaking ill to a Vaishnava or ill of a Vaishnava, right? These are all Vaishnava aparads or offenses to devotees. But Indra wanted to kill the residents of Vrindavan. And not only did he want, it's not that, not that he was thinking, I want to kill them. But he wanted, and then he acted on it. He tried to kill them. It didn't work. And it's interesting because still, even though he did that, Krishna said, after he asked for forgiveness, he said, okay, you could continue your service. Continue your service as King of Heaven. I mean, usually when somebody tries to kill someone, they're like, all right, Prabhu, I don't think it's time for you to, you're out of here. Like, you're excommunicated forever as long as we could, like, possibly, right? There's no coming back, right? Even if somehow or other someone, like, found out that you were thinking of killing somebody, like, you didn't actually try to, but you were just, you wrote in your journal, yeah, I want to kill this devotee, and of course it's a very serious thing. I don't mean to make light of it, but if someone was to find that, you're out. You're like excommunicated, right? But it's interesting. Krishna, not only did Indra want to, but he tried to kill them. And he said, okay, you can continue your service. Now, of course, Indra is a great personality, a great demigod, and sometimes when great personalities like Indra do such things, then Krishna may forgive them in special circumstances. So, but we could just see the forgiving and patient nature of Krishna. So forgiving and merciful. In the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says that utsaha nishchaya dharya tat tat karma bhavartanat sangha tyagat satovidesh sadbir bhakti prasidati, that we should be enthusiastic and confident and patient. And a few other things, but he says we should be patient. And patient means we have to be patient with ourselves, and we also have to be patient with others. Can't just be patient with ourselves, or you can't just be patient with others. We have to be patient with ourselves and others, because after all, to different degrees, we're dealing with ourselves and others. Often, to be in a society means to have to do that. So in other words, to be patient means to be willing to wait for a considerable amount of time, maybe years, maybe lifetimes, to reach our goal. Sometimes we may wonder about the efficacy of our preaching or our teaching or our communicating Krishna consciousness to others. Is it really working? Am I wasting my time with a particular person or in a particular activity which I'm doing, preaching activity? But we should be willing to wait. We may not even see the result for years. Sometimes it takes years for people to actually get the right idea that, hey, I should become a devotee. So in other words, we may distribute a book to somebody, for example, and that person may come to the temple once, and they may take up the process of Krishna consciousness for a couple months, and then they may disappear. And then we think, okay, well, of course, you could say, well, we helped them to a degree, but they didn't really become a devotee. So where's the result? But we should be patient in the sense that it may take some time for that person to become a devotee. And then who knows? A few years later, a person shows up at the door and they really take to the process. They become serious and they actually become devotees. And they become initiated and so on. Sometimes, people may wonder, okay, I'm spending so much time with a particular group of people, and is there any change happening? And again, we have to be patient because it may be, maybe slow changes. We may not be able to see the result just so fast. Like people who I've spent some time with over the years. Of course, you could say that the advancement that they've made could have been a lot faster, but you could say that about anybody, practically. But with certain people, it seems quite slow. Means the degree, the amount of progress they made versus somebody else who started at the same time, the other person may be much more ahead of them in many ways. But still, I've noticed that the people who I've spent time with over the years, there's something happening within their consciousness, even in a slow way, and that they're moving towards Krishna. They might be reading the Bhagavatam more. They might be, or they are, reading the Bhagavatam more. Or instead of living some lavish lifestyle in a particular location in San Diego, they think, hey, let me move back to India and be more spiritual, live a more simple life. Which is a step, actually. It's actually could be quite impressive. Now, of course, not everybody has to move back to India. It doesn't mean someone in America is less advanced or something, because there is value of living in America for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada says it's good for two things: sense gratification and spreading the Krishna consciousness movement in the West. But so things like that we may notice happening. So, and then some of those people may become more serious over time. But in other words, we have to be willing to wait, because we are supposed to be God-like, not God, but godly, like Krishna, in the sense we're his representatives. We represent what Krishna stands for. And Krishna is the most patient. He's waiting very patiently, right? The Vedas say there's like two birds in a tree. One's tasting the fruit, bitter, sweet fruit of sense gratification, whatever, misery in the material world. And the other bird is Krishna. And what is he doing? He says he's just waiting for the bird to turn to the other bird. So he's the most patient person. So we also have to be patient. And in terms of being patient with ourselves, or forgiving with ourselves, it's also very important. We should be willing to wait years. Not that, oh, well, I've taken a Krishna consciousness in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, I should be experiencing the bliss of Krishna Prem, right? Why should Krishna give us Krishna Prem? What is our qualification? How much have we actually surrendered? Why should he give us Krishna Prem? We should be willing to wait for a long time, actually, years, maybe even lifetimes. Of course, we may find it discouraging. Oh, I have to wait lifetimes for Krishna Prem. Of course, we strive as much as we can in this life for Krishna Prem, love for Krishna. But although we're striving and we're hoping and against hope that we will achieve, we should be also willing to wait, as demonstrated by Mukunda. In the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Mukunda was associating with some Mayavadis and some different groups that Lord Chaitanya wasn't very fond of, non-devotee groups. And Lord Chaitanya wasn't happy about that. And then during the Mahaprakash, where Lord Chaitanya was demonstrating his godhood, displaying his godhood, and asking devotees to get for benedictions, like, what do you want from me? And, for example, you had Murari Gupta. He was a lover of Ramchandra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his complexion started turning, greenish. like Lord Ramchandra, and he was transforming into Ramchandra. And you see the room, there was, it looked like, I think the whole atmosphere was transforming into Ayodhya type, in the forest. And so he was giving darshan to Maryagupta, who was Hanuman in the previous pastime. So he was giving benedictions, and then, but he didn't want to see Mukunda. He said, "No, he could. I don't want to see him." And I think he said for 1 million lives or 10 million lives, something like that. Long time. So then, or actually said, "No, I don't want to see him." And then the devotees asked, "Well, is there any time you want to see Mukunda?" And he could say, "Tell Mukunda I'll see him in 1 million lifetimes." And then at that, hearing that, Mukunda started to dance in ecstasy. I don't know if you've ever heard news before and started to dance, but when you're happy, you dance. When you're depressed or suffering, you can't dance. But he was very happy, so he started to dance, jump up and down and dance. However he was dancing, he started to dance. And he was saying, "Yes, I will see my Lord. I will see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It will just be some time from now. At least I will see him. Lord Chaitanya has guaranteed I will see him. So he's promising I will see him, so at least I'll see him. So I'm very happy." So, but he was very patient, Mukunda. I mean, that's a long time. 1 million lives or 5 million lives, 10 million, that's a long time. But he was patient. So Krishna is patient and merciful, and devotees are also patient and merciful. So it's a good thing to remember. Because as we see here, Krishna could have told Indra, "Oh, you tried to kill my residents of Vrindavan? Go to hell." Or, "You tried to kill my residents of Vrindavan and still you're asking for forgiveness? Well, this was such a big offense, go to hell." At least for some time. At least for a couple lives, million lives. Not forever, but sometime you should suffer. But he didn't. He accepted Indra's apologies, accepted his prayers, and he said, "Okay, just go back and try not to do it again. Don't let your pride get the best of you, and that's it. Let's move on." Amazing, actually. So lastly, Prabhupada mentions here throughout the purport also about envy. People are envying Krishna, even the demigods, and Prabhupada says political leaders and people, and trying to put Krishna down, trying to erase Krishna from the picture, trying to take the position of Krishna, maybe not by them saying, "Yes, I am Krishna." Some of them say that. But even just by acting as if they're benevolent like Krishna, right? Bhaktaram yagatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gatvamam shantam richati. Krishna is the best friend, the proprietor, the enjoyer, right? Sometimes people try to be other people's best friends, namely those are called philanthropists. I'm the best friend, right? I'm here to help you, don't worry, I'm here to save you. And trying to take the position of the supreme enjoyer, everything's meant for my enjoyment, I'm the Lord of all I survey, right? So in this way, people are trying to we're envious of Krishna. So Prabhupada likes to hammer on this word Daridra Nārāyaṇa. So Nārāyaṇa is not poor. He's the husband of the goddess of fortune. She has all the opulence. So, but then somebody coined this term. I don't know who coined this term actually. Daridra Nārāyaṇa. Not sure. Maybe it was Ram Krishna group, or anyways, I'm not sure who coined this term. Coin. But to say that, okay, God was once with Lakshmi and now he's fallen into illusion, now he's a poor beggar on the street going from temple to temple, right? Can't even hardly maintain his self in terms of eating. It's just ridiculous and ludicrous. And unfortunately, people subscribe to such strange ideas. Strange means they don't make any sense. And not only do, he says, so-called swamis are very eager to feed poor people, thinking them to be Nārāyaṇa. So they say, oh, manas, what is it? Mana seva, madhava seva. Oh, you serve man, that's like serving God, right? Or that is serving God. Of course, Vaivvangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we're all part and parcels of Krishna. But these people say, practically, they are replacing service to Krishna with service to man. We'll feed the poor and forget about Krishna. That's what's going on. So it's not a very it's not a recommended thing to do. But so I have a question for the audience here, specifically younger devotees. If someone was to ask us, oh, I read in your Swami Srila Prabhupada's books, he seems to be quite critical of this feeding of the poor. Why? What's the big deal? I mean, okay, you guys chant Hare Krishna and, distribute your spiritual wisdom, do your thing, and we do our thing. We feed poor people. What's the big deal? Why are you guys so critical? Or even, we think that this is spiritual. I mean, you got to feed people, right? I mean, people are starving in Africa, and they're starving all over the world, and all you Hare Krishnas are just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. What are you doing to solve the problem? And then you're criticizing us in your books, saying that we're trying to take the position of God. So, what do you have to say about that? Okay, Amogalila Das? Because I think, I'm actually quite offended. I'm like spending all my time and my energy, and you guys are just, Hare Krishna, and...
I have a contribution.
Okay, Amogalila has, and I think a few other ones. But we'll take yours.
Just briefly, I just looked it up. Nārāyaṇa was coined by Vivekananda and popularized by Gandhi.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Popularized by Gandhi. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because usually in Prabhupada's, I don't remember Prabhupada really saying Mahatma Gandhi was popularized. Of course, he didn't explicitly, but sometimes in his conversations he would explicitly say people's names and this and that, not in the books.
Yeah.
Actually, Satsvarup Das Goswami asked Prabhupada, he was going to make a book about all the bogus swamis, and he was going to use their names, like their philosophy, and kind of like our book. What was that book? It was many years ago, spiritual, where Prabhupada was talking with Shama Sundar about the philosophers. Similar book like that, about the swamis and how they're wrong. And Prabhupada said, no, that's not a good idea. He said, if you hit a skunk with your hand will smell, so better not to use names like that in written publications. Anyways.
So why criticize people for feeding the poor? Because they're trying to solve the world's problem, but the real problem, that only it provides some temporary relief for a circumstance which is caused by a greater problem, which is birth, death, old age, and disease. So the Krishna consciousness movement is meant to cure people of these four things: birth, death, old age, and disease, and take them back home, back to Godhead, where there is no hunger or thirst or anything like that. Is that a satisfying answer?
I don't know. Is there any other ideas?
I mean, we should know who to give charity to. They could be different, in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. And if we're feeding the poor people, I mean, if material is feeding the poor people, they actually still are affected by karma. So they're not helping them spiritually. And Krishna consciousness can give them a chance to actually, help their spiritual growth, rise their spiritual consciousness. And if we're distributing prasadam, especially, that could be much more helpful, because they would show interest in spiritual life rather than, material.
Yeah. All right. Is there any other things? You had something, Vijay? Krishna?
From the Zoom.
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah.
Yes. If your request reminded me of the story of the drowning man.
Yeah.
And you want to save him, and you go to him, and instead of grabbing his body, you only grab his clothes. So, and what happens? The body of the drowning man drowns, ends up drowning. So when you go to feed people without Krishna consciousness, what is it that you are doing? You are saving. You are saving the body in relation to the presence of the soul in the cycle of repeated birth and death. And that is not salvation at all. That is damnation of the soul. So the soul ends up drowning in the ocean of repeated birth and death in the material world. No saving whatsoever.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we have more questions pending on the Zoom.
So even if we think of from material point of view, people who are doing philanthropic work or people who are supporting poor people, most of time if you see the history, like they become dependent or they are exploited in future. So now they are feeding, but in future maybe for political gain, for it's superficially philanthropic, but they want to exploit the resources, all the tribals, all the people who are there, or they want to convert to certain religions. Like this all happening in India. It happened in India over 200 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, even it's not at even not at that level they want to help. There is always some long-term self-interest or hidden motive.
Yeah.
So that's why they rather than becoming independent or try to do something to feed their stomach, they become dependent, and which is the worst case. To become dependent on someone to give food is like it's the lowest level than animal, because animals search for their food. So why not humans? Like make endeavor to get the food.
Yeah, and Prabhupada would criticize he would say, I've been to Africa and I've been to America, and he said there's so much vacant land in which there could be the growing of vegetables and this and that. And then, so he would always say it's so-called scarcity, right? The myth of scarcity. He say it's mismanagement. People are mismanaging. Anyways, but yeah, that's interesting, right? People, they feed them this and that, but they say, join my religion, right? It's happening even now, right, in India. So, but what if someone was to say, well, can't I do it? I mean, okay, you guys are all spiritual and everything, but can I still do it? Doesn't Krishna allow for that? Doesn't he say in the Bhagavad Gita that I could give some charity, right? If I can't surrender into him, then if I can't be a pure devotee, then can I just give some charity? Isn't that okay? What would you say?
His
of them, the one who is doing, the one who is taking, right? So in the future, what's going to happen, right? Like remain in ignorance forever.
Okay. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, it could be a much longer discussion, but one thing that came to mind was that it seems that Prabhupada's criticism is mostly
Within his books.
his
Are you-
books and conversations. I guess in general, combined, is mostly well, maybe not necessarily just feeding poor or providing like disaster relief or things like that, but rather under the name of spirituality, or the idea, because that idea is a pretty recent development, that it is the responsibility of religious institutions to provide material aid to people. Whereas in Vedic civilization, that may be there under a king may, part of his responsibilities is to make sure there's some kind of storage or some kind of something stored in case of emergency or this or that, and so there's some element of taxes to keep the citizens safe. Now that's a material kind of safety. Now but that kind of feeding the poor, like Pavan was saying, is a different kind of feeding the poor than the kind of modern welfare system where no matter why you're poor or if you're poor, then we'll give you stuff. So that's also different. But there's all these different kind of aspects of it. But one is that it seems to me one relevant point is that he's really didn't like how there's this modern mindset which okay, you may support your religious institutions, but then they're supposed to give you something out of that. And so what's the religious institution supposed to give? Okay, maybe give a little talk or something, but really they're supposed to then give welfare or some kind of charity. That's really what they're there for. I met people and they say I met someone actually at Sprouts, and they said the Hare Krishna is this and that. I don't really understand, like, what do you guys do for society? Like other religions, I know they do charity, like they feed, or they give clothes, or they do different things like that, or they house, But what do you guys do? People support you. But what do you guys do for the world? So that idea that the spiritual institutions or the spiritual movements are really just there for that kind of help. Because our duty is supposed to provide something that's not material. Okay, there may be some place in society for just material welfare or material protection, but what the nature of the welfare is another thing. But it's at least not the responsibility of a spiritual movement.
It seems that Prabhupada was largely, like you said, criticizing the idea of spiritual, it's being the responsibility of spiritual institutions to do that, But the main function of what Srila Prabhupada, if you look at Srila Prabhupada's 7 purposes of ISKCON, much of them are about education, about educating people. Spiritual education. In the 7 purposes of ISKCON, Prabhupada didn't write certain things. Anyways, but we had something on the Zoom.
Balaram Prabhu?
Yes.
Very quickly, and you asked, is it that we should stop or discredit people, religious institutions who go for giving material charity? My reaction to such a statement is that material charity is no better than, because people who do that, they announce themselves as very charitable. But if we take in consideration the Vedic perspective, the devotional perspective, they are no better than thieves, because they go to people, feed them, and they are not telling them who is the owner of the food. So that is the problem of feeding people without telling them who is providing the food. So feeding people without giving them Krishna consciousness is not being a charitable person. It's being exactly the opposite. It's being a thief. Is cultivation of thievery.
Thank you. Lastly, when Prabhupada was in Rishikesh at the last days there, he was making his way to Vrindavan. There was one lady, she came to him, and she was a spiritual, lady in there, whatever, trying to do good for society, this and that. And she was talking with Srila Prabhupada, and she was explaining how she was trying to help and this and that. And then Srila Prabhupada said, because she was talking about compassion, and then Srila Prabhupada said to her, she said, compassion? He told her, you don't know what compassion is. He said, your compassion is like blowing air on a hot boil. He said, you got to lance it. So it's interesting, because Prabhupada was very direct with her. But the fact is that Krishna consciousness, it ultimately, it's an international society for Krishna consciousness. Society means society covers the needs of all the needs of the persons. Means every need humans have covers it. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to establish a society. We're trying to, right, in which all the needs are taken care of. And even now, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, even back when Srila Prabhupada was, right, gracing the planet, walking around, Prabhupada would say often, he would say, sometimes people criticize us. He says, how are these Hare Krishnas? They have 10 vehicles, and they're feeding 100 men every day, or 100 devotees every day, and they're living in nice, buildings, and they're not working. And he said, we're working so hard. So he said, Krishna's taking care. So Prabhupada was, so yeah, society is meant to do that more and more and more and more. And all of this myth of scarcity and all these different things, all these problems, is all just due to godlessness. And as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there's only one thing lacking in the material world. He said that is God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So better strive for that and try to help people with that. All right. So,
Krishna Prabhu, there is one more question pending on the Zoom.
Okay, please. Last.
Hare Krishna.
Is that Justin?
Yes, it is, Prabhu.
Okay, Hare
Nice
Krishna.
to see you.
Hare Krishna, Justin.
Hare Krishna. So you said in the class that we should be very patient to get Krishna Prema. How does that match with the idea that we should be eager to go back to Godhead in this life? Is that a contradiction?
Okay, thank you. Well, we should strive, do as much as we can within our ability. But sometimes we may cheat ourselves because we may say, hey, I'm doing all I can. This is all that's in my ability. Hey, back off. Back off, Prabhu. Back off, Gurudev. This is all I could do, right? But we really should push ourselves in a sensible way, under the direction of devotees and gurus and sadhus. Push ourselves sensibly. Do all we can to achieve the goal, right? But simultaneously, we should be patient. Not that, oh, I've done all I've done for 1 year, for 5 years, for 10 years. I really pushed myself, and I still don't have Krishna Prem, right? Still, we should be so. Therefore, we should be patient, because the mode of passion means, oh, I did all I could do, and I didn't get the result. Now I'm giving it up, right? All right, Krishna, I really tried, I really strived, and I got initiated. I really pushed myself, right, in a sensible way, but still, I have, But a devotee will actually think, I've done so many things in my past, I should actually suffer a lot more than I'm suffering now. And even if I do not get Krishna's mercy after endeavoring for a long time, still I'll continue to serve Krishna, because Krishna is so great. So simultaneously, they should both go on. We should be very eager, right? Do as all we can, but we should also be patient. Same. Utsaha nishchaya daryat tatat karma pavartana. Enthusiastic, confident, and patient. So in other words, we should be enthusiastic, but also patient. Anyways, I hope that satisfies you to some degree.
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, great.
Prabhu,
Grantaraj.
we have one more question from Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
From who?
Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Oh, all the devotees are saying. All right, you could ask, and whoever wants.
Yes, may I?
Yes.
Because I was not asking questions, I was contributing to your request.
I know. I like that. I think you should do that
Yes,
more often.
Prabhu, my question is, why is it that envy, in the ultimate sense, cannot make me a winner?
Well, because even if you win, so-called, you're still going to be unhappy. How can a winner means somebody who's happy? I mean, how can you? I mean, what are you trying to win? I mean, because if you look at it, if you say, "Oh, I want to be a winner," but what's people's conceptions of winner? Mostly, their conception of winner is they have a sense of happiness, right? Like if you won some competition or you won something in life, and you knew it was going to make you miserable, why would you want to win it, right? You don't want to win. The only reason people want to be winners is that they want to be in the winning team. Is there's a sense of accomplishment, which is just another way of trying to be happy. So envy will never provide that because there's always going to be someone doing better. They may not be doing better here, but they may be doing better there, and maybe at one particular point you're doing better than somebody, but then give it some years, and I don't know, you used to be a great tennis player, but then your legs start giving out, right? And then where's your happiness, right? So envy never will bring us happiness. So therefore, we have to control our envy, and then we have to do away with it, get rid of it. So I don't know, maybe somebody else has something in relation. You have something?
I was just thinking that saying, win the battle, lose the war. So you win some trivial thing, but you lose the greater war of not being an envious person, which will make you miserable.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what you were saying too?
Yeah, envy always equals miserable because it's just not our nature. We're not envious. And also Krishna, he explains to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm teaching you the Bhagavad Gita because you're not envious. That's one of the reasons. So how are we supposed to, we're supposed to be like students of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam says, Nirmatsa Ranam Satam. It is meant for the non-envious, the Bhagavatam. So how are we supposed to enter the truths and the depth of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita while maintaining envy? It's not possible. So we have to throw it out, and then we could be proper students of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, Balarama Prabhu, and if I may, Arjuna, because he was not envy, he got Bhagavad Gita from Lord Krishna, and he won the battle.
Yes, thank you.
He became a winner.
Yes, he became a winner, that's right.
Yeah, I was just saying that why Krishna may have not punished Arjuna, because Krishna was not envious to Arjuna. And why Krishna was not envious? Because he is Supreme Person, he is super powerful. He knew that the Indra cannot do anything to Krishna. But however, we, human beings, we are envious because we are fearful of, insecure of everything what is going on. That's why we are envious, like always envious.
Yeah.
So envious person will be fearful, cannot be happy. Fearful person cannot be happy.
Yeah, envy and fear go together.
Yeah, it's just opposite.
Yeah. So to learn how to be satisfied with one's abilities, with one's imperfections, with one's lack of abilities, that's fine. It's just part of life. It's nothing wrong with that. Or else we're just envy. Oh, this person's taller than me. I'm envious. This person's whatever. this person doesn't have gray hair and I'm envious that they don't have gray, whatever it is. There's so many things. So better just to forget about all that. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Babu, can you switch off the microphones?